Good evening. Welcome to the Southbridge School Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 9th, 2015. Please join the school committee in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Congdon?
Present.
Mr. Olivo?
He's excused. He's on duty.
Dr. Page?
Present.
Mrs. Donovan?
Present.
Mrs. Quinney?
Present.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Present.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Present.
6 present.
Thank you. We're on to agenda item number 3, which is public input. Is there anybody from the public who would like to address the school committee this evening? Good evening.
Good evening. It's been a long time since I've been at this podium. But tonight I am here as a former employee, a taxpayer, and a concerned citizen. After I resigned last year, I really felt like I needed to distance myself from all things Southbridge for a while and concentrate on my new position in my new district. Now, however, a year later, I feel that it is my duty as a graduate, a 15-year educator in this district, and a concerned citizen to share my thoughts with you. I'm taking this opportunity because I feel it is important for the people that work hard in this district to be recognized for their valiant efforts in trying to do their jobs amid continuously turbulent conditions. It's time that all levels of administration, parents, committee, and community members recognize that it is the teachers in this district who are your change agents. The teachers are your boots on the ground. The teachers are the people who come to work day in and day out, despite the politics, despite the revolving doors of leadership, despite the madness, and bring their best game. And I want to be completely honest with you, the teachers are tired. I do not exaggerate when I say I've written a mountain of recommendations over the past few months for educators from all grade levels in Southbridge. And I am talking about people who have dedicated their careers and their time and gone above and beyond to continue to provide the best education possible for your children and mine. They are disgusted and disheartened and disappointed with the way things have spiraled into complete madness this past year. And if things don't turn around soon, if something drastic doesn't happen to resolve this and set the district on a positive course, I guarantee that you'll be watching a long line of wonderful people running for the hills. And once again, who will be left behind in the rubble? The ones that matter the most, the kids. I'd also like to share my opinion regarding the structure of Southbridge Middle High School, because I feel I am more than qualified to do so. For those of you that are not aware, I was on the school building committee at its inception when we began looking at building designs in Sylvia Tajin's classroom at Cole Ave. Not only was I an active participant, but I was the unofficial FF&E spokesperson. I picked out most of the carpeting and the tile colors and the paint colors, as well as the office furniture and the desks. I only mention these things because I want to make it clear that I know exactly what was intended by the building committee, by the district, by the superintendent, and by the Mass School Building Association when that middle high school was built. It was intended to be 2 schools in one building, 2 separate entrances, 2 separate staffs, 2 separate philosophies, and most importantly, 2 separate principals. When Mr. Nimberkow asked me if I would accept the position as principal in the middle high school after Mr. Leach retired, I reluctantly accepted because I had already watched 2 principals struggle through making things work in that building, and I loved my job at the time as the director of curriculum. But he said he needed someone he could trust that knew both staffs and the parents and the students and that could hit the ground running. And having worked at both buildings, I could do that. I did the very best I could to stretch myself across 2 nations that year, the middle school and the high school, because that's what it's like, leading 2 separate nations. During one visit from 2 members of the school committee, about 3 months into the year, they asked me, if you could change anything about the school, what would it be? And I answered honestly, I would put 2 principals in this building, and that's when I was there alone. I speak from experience. It is virtually impossible for a leader of any experience or education level to provide equitable support, equitable attention, and equitable leadership to essentially 2 nations at one time. I tried like heck, and I know Mrs. Earls has worked equally hard at it this year, but someone always loses in this principal equation, and that's the students. My advice in a nutshell, don't punish the people who care the most about kids. Don't punish the people who have dedicated their careers to our students and your children by ignoring their voices. Ask them what they think about leadership. Ask them what they think about building structure. Ask them what they want to see change, and most importantly, ask them what the students need. They will tell you. The boots on the ground will tell you. Ask them and listen to them. In closing, we screwed up here. We screwed up fairly bad. Now it's our responsibility to fix it, starting from the top with a real search for an experienced superintendent that isn't appointed or slid into a position for convenience sake or any other reason. When you start hiring people that are selected by members of a committee that are truly dedicated to turning this district around and doing what's best for kids, and not people who only care about what's best for their bank account or their resume or their Christmas card list, then you will start to see the system begin to heal. No more manipulation, no more alliances, no more plotting and planning, no more bureaucratic bull. It's time to do what's best for kids for once. And I, for one, am going to do my utmost as a resident and a taxpayer to hold the district to that task, doing what is best for kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like, oh, for the record, I'm sorry, I don't believe she stated her name for the record. Do you know who that speaker was? I'm sorry, Amy, you didn't state your name for the record.
An address.
An address, please. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I should have.
Amy Allen Magnan, 186 Dennison Hill Road, Southbridge.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public who would like to address the school committee this evening? Good evening. And if you would just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Christy Schreier. I live at 48 Union Street. I currently have 2 children in the school system, a daughter going into 2nd grade at West Street and a daughter entering kindergarten at Eastford Road School. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the children at Eastford Road School and to advocate for the needs of the school. As a parent, I am concerned about the proposed budget cuts. Teachers, parents, and concerned residents urge you to reconsider the school-based cuts. I strongly urge you to reconsider the target of your cuts and spending. Find other alternatives. Protect our public schools and public school teachers. Eastford Road School is so below what a school should be. Let's start with Mrs. Skripczak, someone who has been involved with our school system for 20 years. Anyone who knows her knows how much heart and time she puts into the school and those kids. She spends endless hours at school, probably more than at home. She has stayed at the school up until 9 p.m. on a number of occasions. She attends every family night, greeting each child by name. She goes from class to class, making sure everything is up to par to the best of anyone's ability, and has actually broke into tears, being so upset that she can't meet all of the needs for all of the kids involved. That right there is heart and dedication. So with someone like that in that position, I find it upsetting that when she makes a request, and not only does she get it denied, also gets told that more cuts are coming. It's just not right, and everyone wonders why when we have someone perfect, we lose them. When I first heard about the kindergarten teacher retiring and not filling her position, I got scared. We were told there would be an expectancy of 28 kids per kindergarten class. That's absurd, and will create more kids to fall through the cracks. But back to Eastford Road School, I was informed that every single time there are budget cuts, it always seems to affect ERS, the school that needs the most help. Here is a list of the problems at Eastford Road School at the moment before we add more problems on top of what we currently have. There is no ELL teacher. Maybe that's why I see 1st and 2nd graders who struggle and barely speak any English, hence low test scores. No special education teacher, no librarian, no gym teacher, no permanent substitute teacher. 1 interventionist. Might I add, there were 88 students in need and only have room for 25. Due to the guidance counselor teaching character education, she is only available from noon until the end of the day. What kind of school has a part-time guidance counselor? So as you can see, Eastford Road School cannot afford any more budget cuts. We can't go any lower than we already are. So speaking on behalf of all of us caring parents, we urge you not to make any more cuts, and please keep all ERS positions intact. Every teacher there is very beneficial to every student in that school. How can we claim to be a great place to live and attract new business when we cannot educate our young children? I understand the economics of budgets. However, this is a dismal and unproductive level. They cannot be cut any further. There is no alternative. We have been at a standstill way too long, and now we must step up. In conclusion, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak and would like to trust that you will make a decision regarding the budget cuts that will benefit the people who need it the most, the future leaders of Southbridge, our children.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to address the school committee this evening? Seeing none, we'll proceed with the agenda. We're on agenda item number 4, which is approval of the consent agenda. Meeting minutes were not distributed to school committee in advance of this meeting, so we're going to have to put those on the next agenda. So the 2 items remaining on the consent agenda this evening would be the 3rd reading of policies file FH, improvements to school property by youth organizations, booster clubs, and other organizations, and file KCD, public gifts to the schools. Would any member like to request that an item be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, if there's no objection, the items on the consent agenda will be adopted as written. Thank you. Under Chairperson's announcements, I'd like to announce that Eastford Road School would like to reach out to families who have not yet registered their children for preschool and kindergarten. It's very important that we hear from you by the end of June to gather this information to prepare for the upcoming school year. Please contact the school immediately at 508-764-5460 in order to register. And next, a second announcement. As you may know, on September 23rd, 2014, at a regularly scheduled Southbridge School Committee meeting, which was broadcast on Southbridge Cable Access, statements were made by former Superintendent Patricia Gardner in the context of MCAS administration that people were not honest and that these people signed documents and said things were done correctly when in fact they were not done correctly. She also stated that not all students eligible to retake MCAS tests were offered the opportunity to retake them. We understand in a subsequent interview with the Telegram and Gazette that Ms. Gardner named former middle high school principal Amy Allen Magnan as the party responsible for the alleged MCAS improprieties. Since that time, it has come to light that all of these allegations against Ms. Allen Magnan are incorrect. There was, in fact, no violation of MCAS protocol or administration by Ms. Allen Magnan or any of her staff, and information provided to the school committee by Ms. and all eligible students were retested as required. As such, we do not stand by the MCAS information provided to the school committee by Ms. Gardner at that meeting in September, nor do we accept her criticism of Ms. Allen Magnan and her role as administrator in charge of MCAS for the middle high school. Thank you for that. And we're moving on now to presentations this evening. We have presentations of district retirees. Ms. Stanton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is with my deepest appreciation that I would like to honor the following retirees of the 2014-2015 school year. In total, these 7 teachers have provided 156 years of service to the Southbridge Public Schools. In total, these 7 teachers have provided instruction, support, guidance, care, concern, and motivation to approximately 3,900 students. While some of our retirees are not able to be with us here this evening, I would like to recognize them and their years of service. Sheila LaPlante, 21 years of service. Linda Tift, 16 years of service. Denise Champeau, 28 years of service. Lori Patterson, 17 years of service. And Leslie Davis, 20 years of service. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that they could not be here with us tonight. However, tonight we do have 2 retirees with us, and I would like them to come forward so I can present to them gifts on behalf of the school department and school committee, Celeste Brackett and Marguerite Bashan.
Would you like to speak? Do you want to say anything? You know?
So I would just like to say thank you.
Thank you very much. All of you. Thank you very much for the outstanding care that you've provided students over the years. I know you're both very dedicated professionals, and you will be missed. Thank you very much. Next presentation, Principal Melissa Earls is here to talk about the class of 2015.
Madam Chair, with your permission, I'd like to pass out the handout.
Please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I was asked to prepare a summary of the class of 2015, a graduation summary talking about credit requirements, and where we stand now in terms of our graduation rate and what we can predict. I've also included some information about their future plans. Feel free to ask any questions. I'll walk you through it just for the sake of presenting it publicly, but if you have any questions, please stop me. The total roster, the total number of students eligible for graduation at the start of the year, going through this year, was 106. That's the number that we're basing our statistics off of. 75 of the 106 did earn and receive diplomas on Friday evening. 15 received a certificate of attainment on Friday. 16 were not permitted to walk this year. We did not permit anyone who did not earn the credits required by Southbridge Middle High School in the state of Massachusetts to walk on Friday. We have a current projected graduation rate. Those are local numbers only, so I call them projected, at 70.8, and I included last year's final graduation rate as well. Some explanations. Certificates of attainment are awarded to students who meet all of the credit requirements but do not pass one or more sections of the MCAS. 13 of the 15 listed in that category are eligible to sit for the MCAS retakes. 7, in fact, sat for the biology retake just this week. Any student able to successfully pass a required section of the MCAS they did not pass previously will positively affect our graduation rate. Of the 16 who did not walk, 5 may participate in single subject credit recovery this summer. They have indicated they will participate. If they participate successfully, that would increase our graduation rate as well. Those 5 have already passed the MCAS, which for some is the tougher of the hurdles. 5 of the 16 are enrolled in the Ombudsman program. They did not participate in local credit recovery this spring. I know you already are aware of the 2 credit recovery programs we offered free of charge to the students. Those 5 did not participate. 2 of those 5 did pass the MCAS requirements. All of the 5 are reportedly still working on the credit attainment. 4 of the 16 have been referred to Quinsigamon Community College Gateway to College program, which is somewhat like a GED or graduation equivalency. Should they complete that program, that will be great for them. It will not positively or negatively affect our graduation rate, however. And 2 of the 16 are special education students under the age of 22 who will return and be with us again next year. I just wanted to highlight our select honors and awards. 21 students in the class of 2015 are John and Abigail Adams Scholars, and you previously recognized them. 11 are President's Educational Excellence Award recipients. 11 are President's Educational Achievement Award recipients, and the differential there is the GPA. 5 are National Honor Society members, 5 are National Art Honor Society members, and there is 1 Thespian Honor Society member in the class. A scholarship summary for the class of 2015. The total scholarships awarded on class night, which was last Wednesday, $120,050. That includes 2 American Optical scholarships in the amount of $40,000 each. And we do have some reports about 2015 future plans. We polled the 90 who participated in the graduation ceremony on Friday. We actually polled them Friday evening as they arrived and asked them what their plans were. We confirmed their college acceptances when we got back to the office over the weekend. 23 of those 90 will go on to four-year colleges or universities. 38 will enter a two-year college. 5 go on to technical school. 2 will enter the military, 1 in the Air Force and 1 in the Army. 20 reported that they will go to work. Once again, 2 will return to us next year in our work experience program for a total of 90 students. And finally, I did list the colleges and universities to which the class of 2015 have been accepted.
Thank you very much. That was- Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Earls? Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update. We're moving on now to reports. First, we have a report of the representative of the Student Advisory Committee. Cameron Boisvert is unable to join us, so this evening we're pleased to have Myron Bernal joining us at the podium, on the dais. Welcome, Myron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The National Honor Society raised over $2,500 as a result of its various fundraisers throughout the year and was able to award scholarship money to each graduation senior members. Scholarship recipients as senior awards nights were Nady Ramirez, $500, Benjamin Snow, $250, Juliari Tevez Guzman, $250, Crystal Ramos, $250, and Gabriela Oliveras, $250. This week, the remaining members will decide on a local charity that is worthy of receiving a donation from NHS. The donation will be given to a charity of choice before the end of the school year. Last year's recipient was Southbridge Food Penitentiary. The National Honor Society would like to thank everyone who contributed to its successful year. Those generous organizations who donated gift cards or merchandise, and individuals like Mr. Eric Nibel, Ms. Farraco, and Ms. Earls, as well parents and faculty members who volunteered their service at various events. We look forward to an even more successful year of 2015 and 2016. Thank you for your support. This upcoming weekend, the Relay for Life, this Friday and Saturday at McMahon Field, June 12th and June 13th. Please be there. If you're interested in sponsoring the Pioneer team, please make a donation through the main office at Southbridge Middle High School. MCAS is complete for the year, but finals are approaching next week. Please be prepared. 8th grade, end of the year awards and events are coming up. June 11th, the dinner dance. June 12th, Camp Foskett. And June 17th, 8th grade awards ceremony. Transition Day, we welcome the incoming 6th graders on June 12th for a tour and fun activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. School committee reports, Budget and Finance Subcommittee, Dr. Page.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a Budget and Finance Subcommittee meeting on Monday, June 1st. Basically, there was a discussion about the impact of the very recently appropriated town budget on the programs at Southbridge School District. And we basically, no actions were taken at that meeting at that time, mostly for additional information for the superintendent and finance director to gather to forward to the school committee. And so the meeting was from 6 to 7, and that's all I have to report for now. There's currently no meeting scheduled.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. We're going to be talking about the budget just a little bit. So, the Negotiation Subcommittee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are awaiting a ratification date for SEIU Local 888, and the SEA collective bargaining agreement is being reviewed to be signed, hopefully by the end of this week, and that is all I have.
Thank you. Report of the Finance Director, Mr. Osborne.
Sure. At the last meeting, we discussed the summer feeding program. And in the interim, I also wanted to make the school committee aware that we have received an additional $1,000 grant from Project Bread towards the summer feeding program. And I wanted to thank Shirley Yank and Nick Billis for their efforts in attaining that grant. Hopefully that will help us have a more successful program this year and give us some more assurances fiscally. That's it.
Thank you very much. Report of the Superintendent, Ms. Stanton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I would like to say congratulations to the class of 2015. It was a pleasure to share in the celebration of their hard work, dedication, perseverance, and resilience that they demonstrated in earning their diplomas. I would like to inform the committee and the community that we have been working very hard in the district to revise the Accelerated Improvement Plan. We will be submitting our revised plan to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education by the end of June. I would like to thank our plan managers, Dr. Sally Dias and Pat Jackman, and the AIP work group for their many hours of reviewing what we have learned in our AIP implementation this year, and for providing a critical eye in our revisions for next year. In our review of this year's work, 3 separate groups identified the same improvement needs for the district. We have made important changes in our assessment system to ensure measures of student growth, the incorporation of PBIS and tiered interventions as a major objective to improve the social, emotional, and academic learning supports for our students, a commitment to improving the core instruction program in the Southbridge Public Schools, and a commitment to improving the culture and climate of the schools and the district. I have heard conflicting information regarding the effectiveness of the school department in managing unemployment costs. I would respectfully submit to the school committee and the public that we are taking several steps to reduce our unemployment costs in the district. In fact, our unemployment costs for the 2013-2014 school year were $385,000. Our projected unemployment costs for the 2014-15 school year are $153,473. I would caution the school committee, however, on 2 points. One, as a level 4 district, the effective use of teacher evaluation, non-renewal, and progressive discipline may lead to increased unemployment costs. Second, the budget parameters set by the town have significantly affected the school department's ability to place staff in the most effective positions. In an effort to reduce unemployment, staff may be shifted to open positions through attrition and retirement, as opposed to being in positions they are most able to teach effectively. With respect to legal costs, I would also respectfully state to the committee, to the public, and to the town council several strategies that we are using to mitigate legal costs. We have trained all administrators on effective use of the new teacher evaluation system and effective use of progressive discipline. We have added letters of expectation to our process of progressive discipline to clearly identify expectations for improvement to staff prior to disciplinary action if warranted. The superintendent, assistant superintendent, and principals discuss and review each disciplinary action with administration to ensure proper use of process and protocols. We are also reviewing disciplinary action with council to reduce risk of wrongful dismissal. We are meeting weekly with union leadership to address concerns at the lowest level possible before filing a grievance. To date this year, there have been 2 grievances filed. We have completed interest-based bargaining, training with the union negotiating team, and have completed negotiations for the contract with the SEA at a significantly lower cost to the district than traditional bargaining. The IBB process has resulted in a stronger relationship between the SEA and management. As a result, since December, we have no new arbitrations and no pending litigation as a result of wrongful termination. We have had only 2 grievances that have been successfully resolved at level 1. Southbridge Public Schools is making great strides in establishing effective systems to improve our overall management of the district. Despite the rhetoric, the rumor, the misinformation, we continue to take steps necessary to move the district from its level 4 status. It concerns me greatly that there has been the suggestion that the school department has been unable or unwilling to improve, when in fact, we have been working with the town in every aspect of improvement. We have addressed issues relative to moving Cole Ave and Glow Building. We have reduced unemployment costs and continue to work at containing legal costs. We will continue to work together with the town council, the new town manager, and the community to address the multiple concerns that the district faces. We are the role models for our students. I would ask that you remember this as we work together to identify and address the needs of our district, our community, and our students. Students need to know that we support their efforts. The message they are clearly hearing and seeing now is that we don't.
Thank you. Ms. Condon?
Thank you. I just have a question through you to the superintendent. With the updated AIP reports that we're going to submit, would we be able to get copies of those prior
Sure.
to submission?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We're on to school committee actions, which is agenda item number 8, a vote to approve the student activities accounts for the 2015-2016 school year.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Congdon. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Donovan. Is there any discussion on the students' activities accounts? Mrs. Quinney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Osborne. In reviewing the list, there are several clubs and sports. By approving the list of accounts, it is not approving such clubs and sports, so it's not authorizing those clubs and sports to take place for next year. Is that correct?
No, it is not.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions related to this? Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had one question through you to Mr. Osborne. On the second account listed was Athletic Assistance Fund, and the note was previously unapproved. I just wanted clarification on what that account was and what that note meant.
This is an account that was somehow created without the approval of school committee. I am not 100% certain what this specific account is for. I believe it does provide general assistance to the athletic teams and programs. It is...
Does it have a balance?
Yes. Okay. Everything here that's a current account typically has a balance. I can look at specifically what that account was set up for. I don't have that with me.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay. All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mrs. Congdon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Osborne. The only account that, was the, and I don't have the paper in front of me, the lost or damaged books account?
Yes.
And my only concern with that is I think people should be held accountable for their lost or stolen books. I know we talked about this in budget last night.
Yes.
So my only concern is, once we start holding students accountable for misplacing these items, where will, once we set that, my concern of removing this is where would we do, where would the money go?
By definition, one of the misconceptions, and this list and many of these changes are the result of some big clarifications from DESE regarding student activities accounts. Student activities accounts are intended to be student-controlled accounts largely. A lost book account falls under the category of a school district-controlled account. So we, in fact, do have a school district-controlled account that is the lost book fund or account revolving fund. So this is just eliminating a redundant and unnecessary account that serves no real purpose.
Perfect. Thank you. I just don't want that to fall through the cracks.
Yes.
Point noted.
And on the list that we have, the list, I know that on the memo, it talks about authorization includes a requested account for Southbridge Middle High School Visual and Performance Arts. And we did receive that documentation.
Yes.
But I don't see it on this list. Would it then be added? Because it's saying approve the following accounts, and I don't see, I see
Yes,
an art.
can we please add that one then? I apologize that somehow,
SMHS
it might have been cut off at the bottom.
Visual and
I apologize.
Performance Arts?
Yes. That is an added account. It was on my list. I think it may have been cut off in what I printed out.
And that is just, for clarification, separate from the, what was it, the drama, musical theater
Yes,
account? So
yes,
they're
it
just
is a
one's for-
separate
Okay,
sort of club, organization.
so if we just add that.
Right, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none, this is a vote to approve the student activities accounts for the 2015-2016 school year as provided on the sheet with the addition of Southbridge Middle High School Visual and Performing Arts. Show of hands. It's unanimous of all present. Thank you. We're moving on to agenda item number 9, which is the FY16 budget. Ms. Stanton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. After the meeting last night, the directors met again. We had several conversations with principals to try and make some changes, which we felt and agreed actually with the meeting of the whole. So what you have on page 2 for the general fund cuts to meet the town budget is our new recommendation. And I think what I would like to point out is that much of how we are handling the gap is to move positions back to Title I and the 240 grant, which if you recall, we had pulled off of those grants. And the reason we do that is because grant funding salaried positions requires us to use the grant funding for retirement. And so therefore, not only are the grant funds not available for resources and interventions because we're using them for staff, which we feel should be generally funded or funded through the general budget, we also have to lose a % of the grant funds to retirement. So that's represented here. We would like to also make very clear that we've been saying that the middle school, high school is in need of the team chair, and the decision this afternoon with our director, Colleen Culligan, was to use Title I and 240 so that we can put that position in place. And you can see the additions back to Eastford Road in the kindergarten teacher and the special education teacher. The kindergarten teacher is, again, a Title I funded position. We would move it to Title I to replace it. And then in analyzing the special ed service delivery grid for West Street School, it's determined that at this point, the additional special education teacher that is there is currently not fully utilized based on student need, so we would be moving that to Eastford Road School.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee relative to this? Questions, Mrs. Donovan?
Yeah, thank you. Just first time seeing it, trying to make sense, because it does look different than last
Yes.
night, so I'm trying to see what was there last night and what wasn't. I think just for the general public's knowledge, especially these two moms sitting in front, we had extensive budget meeting last night relative to making these cuts, and we just wanted you to know that, I know that you had reached out to a lot of us relative to the needs at Eastford Road School. We can't say that Eastford Road School is our only school that has needs, because clearly every school does. But your voices were heard, and there was a lot of discussion not to make the significant amount of cuts that originally had been thought about making at Eastford Road School. So I just wanted to make that clear to you that through deliberation last night and what we had asked them to come to work and do today was to ensure that we're not losing important teachers at Eastford Road School. So my only question to you, Ms. Stanton, is that it appears that while we will be able to replace the kindergarten teacher that was retired, so we're not losing a kindergarten class altogether, and while we will be able to maintain a preschool teacher, because that was another teacher that we thought was going to be cut, it appears that we still will have an elementary music teacher that's in jeopardy. And I was just curious, when we say elementary, what schools are we talking about, or is it relative to Eastford Road for the music teacher?
That position is a .5 position split with Eastford Road and West Street School. I have passed out from Principal Skripczak the projected enrollment for kindergarten. And just to clarify, we would have 9 classroom kindergarten teachers total. 8 would be general ed kindergarten teachers, and 1 would be an ELL classroom, and that would result in 22 students per class.
The other question that I had was the bottom line of your 2016 additions to meet needs. It says loss to MTRS.
Correct? Okay, so that was my
Bad, an
discussion
acronym
about.
threw me. Sorry.
When we use grant funding to cover salaries, we have to use the grant funding to also cover the retirement costs, and retirement costs are at 9%. So for every salary, in addition, we pay 9%, which was the discussion last year when we started to move positions off of grant funding. What we're saying is we will lose $19,260 to retirement costs. That is money that could have been spent differently in terms of resources, interventions, but now will be back used for retirement.
Okay, thank you. If you don't mind, I just want to go back to the elementary music teacher position. I understand that you said it was .5 split with Eastford Road and West Street, and I believe there is a full-time West Street music teacher there currently. So does that existing teacher now teach more classes, and Eastford Road kids do not have music?
It's my understanding that at West Street School, the music teacher was being used to provide some instrumental music lessons to students.
Okay.
I don't believe Principal Regan is here.
No, I don't see him.
That's my understanding of how the position was being used.
So the children at West Street will still get their normal music class. They won't get the supplemental learning how to, the band instruments, if you will. But the students at Eastford Road will lose their .5 music teacher.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other comments, questions? None here. Mrs. Quinney?
Thank you, Madam
Oh,
Chair.
I'm sorry.
To the superintendent. I guess my question for that would be, what would be the likelihood of adding a .5 music teacher back to Eastford Road School?
We would consider that. I think as we move through the budget process, as we move through the hiring process, and we have finalized salaries and positions in place, we would look at the salary line item. I think it's the DLT that will sit down and begin to prioritize cuts that were made so that we can reprioritize additions as funding becomes available.
In that process, as we move forward, I would request that that be looked at strongly and prioritized heavily, as I think exposure to music at a young age has a lot of significant benefits moving forward, and our arts program is limited, and to make that smaller, I think, would be detrimental to our students. So I would request that during this budget process, after this goes through and the DLT sits down to review that, I would request that be a priority to look at returning that position to Eastford Road School. Thank you.
Dr. Page?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One quick question through you to the superintendent. The field trips that was being cut by 21,000, is that the entire budget for field trips, or does that represent a reduction?
That's the entire line
The
item.
entire budget. So there will be no field trips in the district next year.
There will be no district-funded field trips. That doesn't mean that booster groups or individual clubs or the PTA couldn't sponsor field trips.
Thank you.
Anything else? I just want to say, if I might, that, when you are talking about cutting a budget, in any event, it's like Sophie's Choice. You have everybody that has needs. They're just as important as other people's needs. This is like the least favorite part of the job. As we said at the meeting last night, the town, what ended up netting was a budget increase of less than 1% to the school district. And as a result of that, because of contractual obligations that we have, and it wasn't enough to provide level services. And that's the reason, for the first time in several years, we're talking about making some of these kind of cuts. And it's very difficult, because at every level you have Eastford Road School, which is the gateway school, everybody's introduction. So do you want to cut there? Then you have West Street and Charlton Street, and those kids are there for a long period of time. You want them to have a good experience. We absolutely need literacy by grade 3. Absolutely. That should be our goal as a district, literacy by grade 3. So that's so important. Then you move up to the middle high school. We know there are significant needs up at the middle high school. We know there are significant social emotional needs throughout the district. It's very, very difficult when we can't even grow the programs that we have or implement some new innovative programs that might be really beneficial, when we have to sit here and nitpick over what goes. And I think the message this committee gave last night was least impact to student learning, least impact to boots on the ground in front of kids. And I appreciate you reworking this budget. So I just appreciate you doing that, and I appreciate that, Mr. Osborne, and trying to, again, go back to the grants. And yep, you lose some money through the grants, but at least you're saving, again, positions and boots on the ground. Mrs. Donovan?
Thank you. I just wanted to say one more thing, especially to parents out there. A lot of people that contacted me said, please do the right thing and don't make these cuts. And I just want it to be clear that when we presented our budget to the town, we presented a needs-based budget, and that's clearly what it was. We all sitting up here know what the needs of our students are. And I think that was like a $3 million increase, and we knew that was probably a pie-in-the-sky number. But when you ask, what do our kids need, we know exactly what our kids need. The problem is, when we receive funding from the town, we don't get what our kids need. Like we said, we needed a 2.17% increase just to be level funded, just to have exactly the same that we have now. We know that what we have now clearly is not even close to what we need, but that's what we needed to at least maintain the status quo. We received 0.9%. And the other thing people need to remember is, Chapter 70, it's a number that, or a formula, if you will, that the state calculates based on need. And every year they determine, based on what money is available and what towns need, what you should receive. And the town received a very high Chapter 70 number this year. We didn't see it. So that's problematic for us, too, that while the state is recognizing Southbridge has needs, Southbridge needs additional resources via Chapter 70 funding, but when it comes time for the school budget, we don't see that. And that's something that the public doesn't know, and it's like taboo that we don't want to talk about it, but the point is, this is the reality of what we're dealing with. And I will say exactly what I said last night, that when people in certain positions that are able to provide funding for our kids, when they don't do that, it is sending a message that they don't value education and they don't think that our kids are worth it. And that's a terrible thing to have to say and have to face, but that again is the taboo that nobody wants to talk about, that nobody wants to hear. But that is the reality. If the people in this town valued education, made it their priority, we wouldn't be in this fiscal mess that we're in. So we have been given the money that we're given. We recognize that our needs far exceed what our resources are, and we're forced to make it meet. We can't spend an extra $10 anywhere because we don't have it. We haven't been given it. So on one side, town doesn't want to raise taxes. They don't want to raise a levy limit. They don't want to do all these things, and that's fine, and that is their prerogative, and that is their duty to, bring it before their council and have them vote. But at the end of the day, this is the reaction. This is who suffers. This is the result of that. And I just feel that that needs to happen, and that needs to come out, that it's not that we don't understand what kids need. We're sick over what kids need, and it's even sicker that we're not able to provide it. Thank you.
Mr. Abrahamson?
When 5 counselors out of 9 town councilors made a pact that they would not raise even the amount that they could under 2.5, that settled it right there. We knew we could not meet the needs of our students. They held to that pact, and here we are today. It's as simple as that.
Mrs. Quinney?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To my colleagues, I would add, as I stated at a previous meeting, had the town levied the tax that we're allowed to, the 2.5% tax, that would mean to an average household, not every household would be the same, but the average household in Southbridge, that would be an increase in taxes of $153. $153 per average household in Southbridge would have allowed the town, would have given the town, I believe it was $879,000 that could have been allocated to the schools, to town services, to all of those things. As Mr. Abrahamson has stated, 5 of the 9 councilors voted not to levy taxes. And you'll see signs in other communities about Prop 2.5 override. And that means those towns are choosing or asking their community to go above that 2.5%. So to levy taxes greater than that 2.5%. And the town is legally allowed to levy taxes up to 2.5%. So they chose not to do that, and that's where we are now. And all departments in this town suffered cuts, and most painfully, I would say, our students suffered cuts. And I understand and I appreciate everybody that came forward and spoke out on behalf of students and advocating for students and what our students need. I think we need parents and the community to be involved earlier in the process in order to make the biggest impact. So I would encourage you, if you hear that the town council has a pact going around regarding not levying taxes, that at that time you would let it be known the impact that it will have, because this is just a small indicator as to what not levying taxes will do to a school system. We only have what's appropriated to us, and what was appropriated to us was get out of level 4, improve everything, but do it with significantly less money than you required to do it with last year. So thank you, parents and everyone in the community who's advocated on behalf of our students. I would ask that coming next year, you would advocate strongly at budget time to the town council to levy taxes and to advocate for a greater appropriation to the school budget in order to hopefully fill in some of the cuts that we're having to make tonight. So thank you all very much.
Mrs. Congdon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a lesson learned. I think next year, as a school committee, we need to definitely begin budget talks earlier and advocate for the students. We seem to be a day late and $1 short. And as a school, we need to begin the budget talks much sooner. It just seems like we're always behind the gun when it comes to things. So I know it'll be my 3rd year, and that definitely is a priority of mine to not let this happen again and to really advocate for this budget from the get-go and not let other things distract when it comes to budget talks and budget season. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? So based on this, we could take action this evening. There's a recommendation in the packet that the school committee approve and adopt the above referenced positional and resource allocations to the 2016 school budget. I would add to comply with the FY16 appropriations set by the Southbridge Town Council of $25,574,689. I don't know if anybody...
So moved.
Mrs. Quinney makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Mrs. Donovan. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Dr.
Madam Chair,
Page?
just quickly, so we actually don't have the line item budget in our possession with these incorporated into it.
Last night.
Okay.
I handed it out to all committee members.
Okay. And unfortunately, I
I
wasn't
have
at the
a
meeting
copy in my
last night, and I
office if you'd
haven't seen this, so I haven't had a chance to review it, so I think I'm going to have to abstain on this vote, so.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, could I have a roll call, please?
Dr. Page,
Abstain.
Mrs. Donovan,
Yes.
Mrs. Quinney,
Yes.
Mr. Abrahamson,
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon,
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin.
Yes.
We have 5 yes and 1 abstention.
Thank you. The motion carries. Under new business, to let you know, the next school committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015, at 7 o'clock in council chambers. And now we move to member forum. Any members? Have anything to say? Mrs. Congdon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for you. Have we talked to Mr. Kutcher regarding the surveys?
Yes, and I don't have my email in front of me, but I can certainly get that to you. He responded to me yesterday. I printed out an email, and I didn't bring it, so I apologize. He can get that up and running. He sent us a list of 5 or 6 communities and where we can go and link and look at their surveys to get an idea of which ones we like or don't like. And then he also asked if we would like to do focus groups before the end of the school year. And if he would like MASC to come back, and now that we want to work with them and have indicated we want to work with them, to have them come back and kind of walk us through that process. So I don't have that, but I was going to forward it to all of you. I apologize.
Did he think that the surveys might be available by the end of the year for existing
Yes,
staff now?
absolutely.
Okay.
He said there's a quick turnaround on surveys, very quick. But he just wanted us to have an opportunity to look at them, and I didn't want to make that decision by myself, so I wanted to send it out to all of you. But if you can turn that around pretty quickly, then he said he's used the term very, very quickly, so I don't know.
Great, thank you. And just second, I just wanted to again congratulate all of the teachers that are retiring for all of their dedicated years of service. I know it probably hasn't been easy for them in this district, but I know a lot of them personally. I think they've made a difference in many of the children in our communities, the students in our communities' lives, as well as families in this community. And I just, again, wanted to thank everyone for all of their years of dedicated service. There's really no words that can express what they've meant to students and what a difference they've made in multiple people's lives in this community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anything over here? Mr. Abrahamson?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing I wanted to just note is that we have a busy end of the year coming up, and I know that a lot of us have been invited to numerous events. We were at graduation, we were awards night. Tonight I was at a drama club awards night. There's the Invention Convention taking place at West Street School and a Lorax play by one of our 4th grade classes. There's, as Myron had mentioned earlier, 8th grade graduation next week, and their field day and their dinner dance. There's lots of field trips and end of the year concerts and picnics. So while we'll be busy, I just wanted to really thank the administration and the faculty and the staff who value our kids and are really going above and beyond, both in and outside of our classrooms, to enrich the lives of our kids. These are not easy events to pull off, and they mean so much to the students as well as to their families. So any of our administrators, faculty, and staff who play a role in this, I wanted to personally thank you for doing what you do. Second of all, I heard this evening that there were 2 students at our Southbridge Middle High School that recently won gold medals at the Special Olympics in Boston, and that was awesome. My kids were very excited to hear that. I do not have their names, but one won a gold medal in shot put and the other one for volleyball, and I believe, Ms. Earls, it was announced today to the entire student body for those kids. So, you know, sure.
Kevin and Kane.
Kevin Darling. Kane Janty. So awesome job. That's you know, something that we definitely need to recognize. So congratulations to both of them. I wanted to thank the mom that spoke this evening. I know that if you're not used to coming up in front of people, it can be scary, and you did a fantastic job, and we need more people like you to come up and speak your mind. We do listen. We can't always make the magic happen, but I don't want anybody to be discouraged, whether you're one way or another, no matter what the issue is. It's very important for people's voices to be heard, and I wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your evening and away from your family to talk about something that is obviously very passionate to you, so I wanted to thank you for that. I, too, wanted to congratulate the retirees. I knew the 2 ladies here personally. I had worked with them just through my own experience, so I wanted to wish everybody a very happy and healthy retirement, and enjoy yourselves, because you certainly deserve that. Last but not least, I wanted to just mention that while our last school committee meeting is June 23rd, I will not be present at that meeting, and therefore this would be my last official meeting on TV, if you will, as a school committee member. My 3-year term is up, so if you wouldn't just indulge me for a minute, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that I've been very grateful for the opportunity to have served in this capacity as a school committee member over the 3 years. It was a joy for me to give back to my community. My community has given a lot to me and my family over the years, and to be able to do this service and give back in some small way meant a lot to me. So I wanted to thank the people that were a part of that. More specifically, my supporters. Your words of encouragement and recognition and appreciation somehow got me through the darkest hours, because there was a lot that we traveled over the last 3 years. So I wanted to thank you for your kind words. To the students of the school district, I wanted you to know that you were always in the forefront of my mind whenever I took action, that I always advocated for you when we had the ear of the Department of Ed or MASC or anybody. Oh, we had Mr. Malone, he was the Secretary of Education. Any opportunity that I had to advocate for you, I wanted you to know that I did, that I was always in your corner, and that I hope that in some small way that my time up here has somehow enriched your life as a student in the Southbridge Public Schools. I wanted to personally thank Mrs. McLaughlin. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve as your vice chair. I couldn't have done this without you, and I know the same is true for you, so thank you. To the current board up here, as well as past boards that I've served on, I'm very lucky to have served with all of you, and I've learned a lot from each and every one of you, both past and, both present and in the past. So thank you for that. To our future school committees, I wish you all the best. To Ms. Stanton, I also wanted to thank you for your service and wish you the best, and the same to Mr. Osborne. And obviously to the Southbridge Public Schools as a whole. I hope that the future is bright for the Southbridge Public Schools. And finally, last but not least, I'd be amiss if I didn't thank my family, because certainly they have lived through and seen the extreme sacrifice that myself and my family has endured over the past 3 years, so that I could give 100% of myself to this job. So to my mom, Diane, who was always there to help out when I'm needed, my husband Steve, my 3 children, always there to help each other when mom wasn't around. So I look forward to some free time. I look forward to having my evenings back to spend time with you, and I look forward to sharing any of the new adventures that await us. So thank you all very, very much, and again, it's been a privilege. Thank you.
Mr. Abrahamson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My colleague is always so gracious And when I follow up after her, I am just completely the opposite from that, and I intend to be. Madam Chair, it's been quite a year. When I ran for a seat on the school committee last June, it was my first venture into politics. I did so because I believed that our Southbridge Public Schools were at a critical juncture and that decisions made could set us in a positive direction to move from an underperforming Level 4 district to a path that would lead to a district that would provide a quality education for all segments of our student population, including the terribly underserved students and those who have little or virtually no advocacy. I had no idea, Madam Chair, that politics, as it has been practiced in our town over this past year, would be such a hindrance to providing for the needs of the children of Southbridge in our public schools. The interference that has been imposed upon the important work of the school district leaders by elected officials, including the unrelenting obstruction by some on this school committee, has set the stage, I believe, for many more years of dysfunction, not only for our school system, but for the entire Southbridge community. The Southbridge Town Council, through its current leaders, has abused its legitimate area of authority by trying to assert its will over the legitimate functions of a duly elected school committee, while posing as a body who just wants the best for Southbridge. The real agenda for the town council leaders and their followers has been clear by their own words. Comedian W.C. Fields has been attributed with the quote that I'll clean up a bit for this forum: "If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bull." The town council leaders and their followers have made a slight change. If you can't baffle them with brilliance, dazzle them with bull. And it's worked. They've been able to demonize the very people who've been fighting for the resources, for the demonstrated needs of our students, and have gotten others to join in the chorus. Their intent has also been clear. They've not engaged in meaningful conversation, but in the politics of destruction, which has not only resulted in one of the town council's de facto leaders making an obscene gesture in the face of our superintendent of schools, but appears to have influenced their selection of Southbridge's next town manager. And Madam Chair, I just thought about this that I wanted to throw in here. Our acting superintendent has more experience as a superintendent than our new town manager has as a town manager. Madam Chair, that brings me to our superintendent of schools, Cheryl Stanton. With her knowledge of best practices and her insight into the way underperforming districts are turned around, if Southbridge were in receivership, Cheryl Stanton is precisely the type of leader the state would send to Southbridge. Through you, Madam Chair, Cheryl, there are struggling districts and schools in Massachusetts who are waiting for someone like you to help them and will welcome you into their communities. And I have no doubt that the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has taken notice. Finally, Madam Chair, there's a very important town election coming up on June 30th. 5 people have come forward seeking a seat on the Southbridge School Committee. 2 of them will be elected. Madam Chair, as I look to the future, I don't see how my voice can make any difference at all. So I believe the citizens should have a third choice among the candidates. Therefore, Madam Chair, tomorrow I will resign as a member of the Southbridge School Committee. Best of luck to all, and thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay, we'll now be moving on for a motion for executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 22A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the government's bargaining or litigating position, and the chair so declares, and I declare, 1, potential litigation, and 2, SEIU Local 888. There's too many eights, 888. And B, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel for 1, the acting superintendents of schools contract, and 2, supervisor of maintenance and facilities. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Mrs. Quinney makes the motion. Mrs. Congdon seconds it. Need a roll call, please?
Mrs. Donovan?
Yes?
Mrs. Quinney?
Yes.
Mr. Abrahamson?
Yes.
Mrs. Congdon?
Yes.
Dr. Page?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
All yes? Okay, all yes. School committee will resume to open session should we need to as a result of executive session. When we come out, we probably will return to open session. Thank you very much.
Returning from executive session, however, no further action is required by the school committee at this time, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I'll make my final motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor, show of hands. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good evening.